All right, we will go ahead and get started. It is 1 o'clock, and on behalf of the Alabama Emergency Management Agency and ADEM, we would like to welcome you to the winter Alabama Emergency Response Commission meeting. I'm Grady Springer with ADEM. I serve as the chief. I serve as the chief of the Office of Emergency Response. And also with us, we have our co-chairs, Beth Donaldson and Joey Simmons. You will hear from both of them shortly. I'd also like to thank Mr. John DeBlock for joining us today to give us, with the National Weather Service, to give us a presentation. Thank you very much. And before we get started, just a few housekeeping notes. If you would, please type your name and agency that you represent in the chat, just so we can capture that on the roll. And also, please monitor your mics. Keep them muted if you are not speaking. Just help keep the background noise and distractions down. And with that, we will get right into the agenda. I'll turn it over to Beth Donaldson.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Beth Donaldson. I work for the Alabama Department of Environmental Management. On today's agenda, we are going to adjust it slightly from the email that was sent out. We're going to start instead with the EPCRA update today, and then we'll move on to the ADEM ER and Regional Response Team update from Grady. And then afterwards, we'll hear from the Joey Simmons with AEMA for the Local Emergency Planning Committee update. And then Debbie Link with AEMA will do the Hazardous Material Emergency Preparedness Grant update. So the Emergency Planning and Community Right to Know Act update usually covers any updates that pertain to the EPCRA program, either from the regulatory updates or anything that might be beneficial to the industries that are required to file under this program. And since it's been a while since we have gone over sort of like the history of EPCRA and how we got here, why the CERC exists in the first place, I thought it would be beneficial for us to go over a little background information about the law and how we got to where we are today. So the history of EPCRA really begins in 1984 in Bhopal, India, when over 30 tons of a highly toxic pesticide called methyl isocyanate gas was released, and it instantly killed thousands of people and injured hundreds of thousands more. Shortly after that, less than a month later, here in the United States in 1985 in Institute, West Virginia, at another Union Carbide plant, they had a smaller scale event of a similar material. And while nobody died, there were still over 100 members of the community that were sent to the hospital. Within a 5-year period of the tragic Bhopal incident, over 6,900 chemical accidents occurred in the United States. In a response to the need for more transparency around chemical release events and the need for emergency planning and for the community to be able to learn more about the chemicals in their neighborhoods, Congress passed the Emergency Planning and Community Right to Know Act in 1986. The whole purpose of EPCRA is to help communities prepare to respond to chemical emergencies, increase the public's knowledge of the types of chemicals and releases that are at individual facilities, empower responders to use that information to improve chemical safety and to protect the public and the environment. And lastly, its purpose is to create the State Emergency Response Commission for each individual state. Per the EPA and the National Response Team, the State Emergency Response Commission's duties included a number of items, the first being implementing the EPCRA program of the state. The next was to establishing procedures for the receipt of, management of, and access to all notifications, reports, plans, and all other information that's required by EPCRA. Reviewing local emergency response plans, designating local emergency planning districts, and coordinating the establishment of LEPCs, and which are local emergency planning committees, and overseeing their activities. In 1987, the Alabama governor at the time passed Executive Order Number 4, which created the Alabama Emergency Response Commission and the Hazardous Materials Advisory Group. The Department of Environmental Management and the Alabama Emergency Management Agency were appointed as co-chairs to the Alabama Emergency Response Commission, and we were appointed specific roles. ADEM's role on the AERC is as the data repository. We house all of the regulatory paperwork that are filed by these facilities that have hazardous chemicals on site at certain thresholds. And we make these documents available to the public and responders by request for emergency planning and community right to know purposes. And at ADEM, I serve as the EPCRA coordinator, so I handle all of the paperwork that comes in from these facilities. And my phone number is listed there, as well as the EPCRA website that has recently changed. ADEM had a lovely website revision, so do note that the link up there is different than the link in the past. And the next person on that contact list for the CERC is Grady Springer. He's who you already met. He's our ER program chief, as well as the representative for the regional response team for Alabama for ADEM. And the link that's posted there is for the emergency response program site, which has also been moved. So do note that that change is in effect as well. At the Alabama Emergency Management Agency, their role is to be the LEPC, or Local Emergency Planning Committee Management. So they were to appoint and supervise these LEPCs and designate emergency planning districts, facilitate preparation and implementation of these emergency response plans that the LEPCs have to write, and also provide training to local planning and response organizations. And at AEMA, we have Joey Simmons, and the link up there is to the LEPC portion on the AEMA website. We are very lucky to have Joey join us on the CERC. We look forward to you meeting him shortly. When the Amendment 4 established the CERC, it also established something called the Hazardous Materials Advisory Group. And the whole purpose of this group was to bring together agencies that would be able to assist with the commission as needed. And they would also then disseminate all the information that they learn and pick up at these CERC meetings to their counterparts for further distribution, whether that be members in the public or the private sector. In that regulation, they said that basically other groups can be appointed to this group if deemed necessary by the CERC, and that all sectors of state government are to assist us as needs may be identified. The other key component of the Hazardous Materials Advisory Group members is that they have voting rights to help vote on matters that are of particular interest to their agency. So for example, one year we voted to adopt all digital reporting for the Tier 2 reports and all EPCRA documents. We no longer accept paper documents, though that decision had to be determined by the CERC and voted on by the CERC, which we did in 2017. So it's really important that the members of this group come, because their voice is so important, especially when it comes to speaking on behalf of their agency and giving voice to those perspectives. This Hazardous Materials Advisory Group detailed very specific agencies, which we're going to go through right now. The first one was the Department of Public Safety, which is now the Alabama Law Enforcement Agency, or ALEA. The next one was the Department of Public Health. Then the State Highway Department, which is now ALDOT. The Business Council of Alabama. The Alabama Petroleum Council, which is now API, the American Petroleum Institute. Then we have the Association of County Commissioners, the Alabama League of Municipalities, and the Alabama Chemical Manufacturing Association, which is now referred to as Manufacture Alabama. Now I'm going to go over a couple of the stats related particularly to the data that gets filed underneath EPCRA. One of those reports is called a hazardous chemical inventory, which facilities must file if they have hazardous chemicals on site that meet a certain threshold. That report is filed annually, and it gives first responders access to the data that allows them to use it for emergency planning purposes. It's going to detail the type of chemical, the amount of pounds per chemical that is on site. It's going to detail the location information and any relevant safety information, including like the hazard categories for health and the environment. And so for filing year 2024, we ended up having 1,552 facilities that filed via one filing option, which is the free software with the EPA called Tier 2 Submit. And then we had 2,207 facilities file through ePlan, which is our online reporting option that is managed by UT Dallas. And it's an online database that keeps all of the Tier 2 data inside of it for ease of access for both the facility side and for the first responders who need access to the data. It presents it in a way that is a lot more interactive and functional than the old paper reports used to be. That brings the total of Tier 2 reports for FY 2024 to 3,759, which is about on par with previous years. It's about 20 facilities less than last year, and that's pretty normal for facilities to fluctuate, as they sometimes will have chemicals that fall below the reporting threshold, so they may not report for that filing year, or maybe the facility closed. Every county in Alabama has a minimum of 5 of these types of facilities that have these hazardous chemicals stored on site. Excuse me. There's not a whole lot of EPCRA regulatory updates for this session. I did leave on an older one from last year because it is sort of being added to fairly regularly. The EPA added designation classes for these types of chemicals known as forever chemicals. You may have heard of them, called PFOS or PFOA. And so they are basically identifying these chemicals and they're adding them to the list of lists to be reported at certain thresholds. The other regulatory update is that next year, they are going to be updating the hazard categories on the Tier 2 reports to reflect the OSHA hazardous communication standard. They do this periodically every couple of years, so it's not a significant change. It's just going to add a little bit more category to be more specific about the types of hazards that those chemicals have. I also included the slide from last year as well for the emergency response guidebook. The first responders and law enforcement can request hard copies of that book from their state coordinators. And that ERG book has information relevant to release information, how far they need to evacuate or take in certain measures to help protect the responders and the community. The PDFs are available on the website listed there on that second bullet, and it's also available on a phone app for Apple and Android. The state coordinator for the emergency response guidebook is Laura Patterson at the Alabama Emergency Management Agency. Her contact information is at the bottom of the slide. Anybody that has questions about that ERG or distributing it or getting copies of it can reach out to Laura for more information. Are there any questions for me? My contact information is listed here. I've also included a couple of links that are relevant to pretty much anybody that's dealing with the Tier 2 reporting or EPCRA documents. ePlan is up there. That's the online portal, which before I move on, the local emergency planning committees and the local EMA offices, because it's been a while since we've done a public information session about ePlan, and there's been a lot of turnover in the last couple of years. Some of the LEPCs and local emergency management agency folks don't know that ePlan is available to them for use as a first responder. So I just wanted to take a second and remind everyone that you don't need to be entering your tier 2 information via hand anymore if you're still using paper copies or you're still typing it into a database manually. All of that data is available with a click of a button through ePlan. So if you ever have any questions as a responder needing access to ePlan, please reach out to me anytime. I'm happy to talk about it over the phone. I'm happy to meet you and do little training sessions. So I really want to be able to equip everyone with the ability to access that data and know how to get to it. The other link on here is Cameo Data Manager, which some of the older folks might remember from the older days where it was, they basically created it when it was on dial-up. So it's a very simple computer program, but it has a lot of robust tools to use. So I always like to include that because you can add individual evacuation routes and all kinds of stuff for emergency planning. So the last one is the Cameo Chemicals website. They have a great feature where you can search for the chemicals by cast number, name, partial name. So it's just a great resource to have bookmarked or to download the app on your phone because it's really handy to have for looking up safety information about all of these chemicals. So again, do I have any questions? I'm going to check the chat real quick just to make sure nobody has posted there, and then we'll proceed with the rest of the agenda. Okay.
Hey, Beth.
Yeah.
I did want to draw attention to one thing real quick. Going back to the Tier 2 reporting. So for those who don't know, it was 2015, I believe, that the CERC voted to allow ePlan as a way to submit Tier 2 reports to the state. Prior to that, it was just hard copy, which we no longer accept, or through Tier 2 Submit, which was an EPA run portal. Well, we had some concern that maybe a lot of the state, or excuse me, the facilities would not buy into ePlan just because it was a paid portal versus EPA's free. But I think it's important to note that I think it was last year that we actually, as you saw on Beth's slide, last year we received for the first time more Tier 2 reports coming in through ePlan than we did through Tier 2 Submit. So that was really good to see that, and it just kind of tells us that that industry has really accepted ePlan, and I think they really do appreciate the ease of use compared to some of the other portals, as well as it shows that the fee is fairly nominal, so that's not been anything that to prevent them from that.
Thank you, Grady. That's absolutely right. A lot of the facilities I deal with really appreciate this sort of streamlined process that ePlan offers and how easy it is to even retrieve the data from the previous year. And so it's sort of exciting to see, not only industry, but the local emergency folks sort of moving into an easier era of managing all of this data. I did not see any questions in the chat. So with that, we are going to move on to the next part of our agenda, which is going to be with Grady Springer with our ER branch. Take it away, Grady.
And you can go ahead and advance that slide.
Okay.
For those that have not seen this map before, this is our ER program with the breakdown statewide. So we have 4 different field offices throughout the state: Decatur, Birmingham, Montgomery, and Mobile. And each one of those field offices has an ER component and are responsible for a particular area of the state. So in a minute, when I mention these numbers and I say these are statewide numbers, these will encompass all 4 field offices. You can go ahead and advance that. So this is taking a look at our ER program for the last 2 quarters. We set this up basically on a fiscal type way to monitor these. So these would be April through September. And we had a total of 160 release notifications that came into us. So what that means is we were notified as an agency 160 different events of release of petroleum or hazardous material. We typically like to give the local first responders, local government, the first opportunity to respond to those. And if it gets outside of their capability to respond to, then they can request assistance with the state through a state warning point, and we will then be glad to come in and assist them with that. But ADEM as an agency, we responded to 58 of those on site. And what that really means is we come alongside the local government, provide some technical oversight. What we really do well is we work with the responsible party to make sure that they do the things that they need to be doing, i.e. that's getting an environmental contractor on site and removing whatever has impacted that environment and making the state whole as far as removing that material. There are times when these spills may get outside the capabilities of the state, and at that point, we're also there to request assistance from the federal level, which is usually going to be the U.S. Coast Guard or U.S. EPA. This is a breakdown of our response numbers here, as you can see, which is always typical. Land notifications or land impacts is the largest group there. And the very vast majority of those are going to be transportation-related accidents, trucks running off the road, spilling fuel from saddle tanks, spilling whatever commodity they're carrying. And then we always have some rail incidents mixed in there as well. As I mentioned a minute ago, we do from time to time have to request assistance from the federal level. We had 2 incidents out of this 160 that did involve response from EPA. The first was a mercury release. This occurred in Coleman County on September 22nd. And basically we had a resident or homeowner that showed up to the hospital, and she was showing signs of mercury poisoning, had an elevated mercury levels in her blood. So the Alabama Poison Information Center contacted the NRC and contacted ADEM. And we got involved at that point, and we, after some investigating, realized that this person had been cleaning out an old home, removing some junk, and she had come across a vial of what was mercury. She was not sure at the time what it was. She ended up spilling 2 tablespoons of this mercury, attempted to clean it up with a household vacuum and dust and broom and dustpan. And this actually occurred 6 weeks before she showed up to the hospital. So she was working in this old home. She also took the mercury back to the home she was living in, creating a secondary contamination spot. So she had been living with this in this environment for 6 weeks, showed up at the hospital with, like as I said, signs of mercury poisoning. At that point, we requested assistance for EPA. The state just does not have the capability currently to handle mercury removal. EPA did come along. They responded. They did address both the residents that both homes the resident was living in. They went in and cleaned them. They basically had to take the primary home that was impacted down to the floor studs and rip everything out. And then the secondary home was not quite as extensive, but it was still a very lengthy process that took them about 3 weeks to completely remove the mercury and clear both of these homes for her to move back into. And just to note, the cost of this remediation was about $200,000. That's what it cost EPA to come in and do the cleanup. And I always like to make a note. It's interesting that the state level or federal level, there is no mechanism in place to remove mercury before it becomes a problem. In other words, we have people that call us from time to time, say, hey, I've come across this bottle of looks to be mercury, cleaning out a shed or whatever, and I'm not really sure what to do with it. How do I get rid of this stuff? And unfortunately, we don't have a stream or a financial stream to handle that on the front end. So I have to, we give them a list of contractors, ask them to contact one of the contractors for removal of that material that will accept it. And of course, the cost will come from that person that has the mercury. On the flip side, if that mercury becomes spilled, it does open up a financial stream on the federal level, but it is much more costly to do the cleanup than it is removal. Typically, you can remove mercury anywhere $500 to $1,000, depending on how much you're dealing with. And again, to clean it up is about $200,000. Advance slide. And the second incident we had was a tire fire. This was an unpermitted or illegal dump site for tires. This was at DeKalb County on October 17th. There was a resident that had reportedly been dumping tires on property he had that was off the roadway, sealed behind a tree line, so it wasn't really visible from anywhere unless you went onto his property. But had allegedly been dumping tires there for 30 years. Was estimated that there were about 30,000 tires on site over about an acre and a half property. Not really sure how the fire started, but this was back when Alabama was in a pretty significant drought. Fire started and the smoke plume from this thing was visible for up to 10 miles away. It was, after doing a quick search, we determined there was about 2,500 residents within a 4.5 mile radius of this fire. It was putting off a pretty noxious and thick black smoke plume, as you would imagine. The Alabama Forestry Commission did come in and assisted with cutting a fire break around that. They were also able to build an earthen berm to help contain the runoff from firewater suppression. And at this point, we contacted EPA and we requested some air monitoring just simply for the residents we had around this location. EPA was able to arrive on site at about 8 p.m. It took them some time to set up their perimeter monitoring, but they began monitoring the plume from the fire at around 3 a.m. And they did an 8-hour continuous monitoring until they determined that the fire was at least out enough that was no longer presenting health issues to any of the residents. So they were there on site, helps with that monitoring. After the initial attempt to put the fire out, which is not really successful, as you know, tires, they burn very hot very quickly. The water does not work well on them. So the decision was made to let it burn out on its own, but they were on site monitoring until we got to a level we felt like the smoldering tires were no longer a health issue. And you can advance that, Beth. And moving on to our staff, or not staff training, but one thing some training I wanted to put out there for the state. As most of you know, lithium-ion batteries have become an issue. How to handle them, how do you address them when they catch fire? That is something that is happening more and more. So TransCare is now offering a new online training course strictly related to lithium-ion battery response. This is strictly online. You can take it at your pace. It's about a two and a half hour course length. I have not had a chance to look at it yet. I do plan to, but you can see the link there to take this training. And we are going to try to push this out to all state agencies as well as all counties and LEPC. So they have this training. We'd really like to get this into the hands of a lot of the first responders, particularly the fire departments. We get a lot of questions from them on, how do we address these lithium battery ion fires we have. So that should be coming to your email. Keep an eye out for that. And then last, the regional response team, we were supposed to meet, or the RRT was supposed to meet on the week of November 17th. The last meeting we had for the RRT was in May of 2024. The RRT is a bi-annual meeting, just like the CERC. They typically do a spring and fall meeting. Since 2024, it has been postponed several times, some due to response by federal agencies such as the North Carolina floods, a couple of the hurricanes that came through. And we were all scheduled to meet November 17th of this year. A few weeks ago, I really thought we were going to actually make this meeting. We got close enough. Nothing had been postponed, but about 2 weeks prior to the meeting, we did get an email that they were going to again postpone this one due to the government shutdown. So it's been a little bit of a stretch of bad luck for the RRT and trying to get this going, but we're now looking towards the spring for the next meeting. There have been no dates released yet. I do expect those to come shortly after the new year. And as soon as we get those, I will pass those along to AEMA since they typically take part in that meeting as well. And that is it for my part. I do want to mention this, and I should have mentioned this at the beginning of the meeting. We do have an agency roundtable coming up. I just encourage everyone to be thinking anything that you can add to this meeting or mention that is going on within your agency, anything that is impacting your agency. It doesn't necessarily have to relate directly to the CERC and the things we do at the CERC. Just anything, any training you have going on or any changes in policy or anything that would be of interest to the other state agencies. And with that, I will turn it over to, I think Debbie Link is next.
Actually, Grady, I do have a quick question for you. For those that may not be
Okay.
familiar, can you give just a brief description of what the regional response team is and sort of what the function of that is?
Sure. So the regional response team, and this is regional response team 4, of course, in region 4. It is a very similar format to all state CERCs. Actually, it is co-chaired by the U.S. Coast Guard and U.S. EPA, and then you have a host of really a large amount of federal agencies that also sit on that team. Is anything from FEMA to Department of Interior, National Wildlife and Fisheries. It is an extensive list, and I encourage anybody to go, if you have interest, to just Google the RRT and see it. And then you have the 8 regional states that also sit on that, Alabama being one of them. All the states in a region 4 would be on there. And it is really again, very similar in nature to the CERC, just at a federal level. Anytime there is a large scale response that involves, it may be a spill of national significance or something of that nature, where they really feel like they need to bring in more members to run ideas by, to get plans reviewed and passed, they will convene the RRT for that. During one good example was during the Colonial Pipeline spill we had in Alabama in 2000, we had 2, but in 2016, there were a couple of different methods they were looking at addressing that. One was possibly in situ burning of some of the material on site. And anytime you get into taking on those type of response activities, the RRT generally likes to bring that up to the entirety of the response team, to all federal agencies and state agencies, and just poll it and get an agreement from all partners involved. So again, they meet biannually just to look at a bunch of different case studies, to look at things that have gone well, things that may be impacting all states in the future in the realm of emergency response. And I have been on that team since 2010, and it is really a great group of agencies and people.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Grady.
Is there any more questions?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I should have asked, is there any more questions about any of the information? Thank you.
Next on the agenda, we have Joey Simmons with AEMA. Before he gets started, we do have 24 people listed in chat, but I did a total of everyone that wrote their name in their agency. We only have about 18. So if you are one of the 6 who did not type it, I'm going to put mine and Grady's in there right now. But if you haven't put your name and your agency in the chat yet, please do so. The attendance record is a public document, so we want to make sure that everyone who is here gets credit or acknowledged for being here. All right, here you go, Joey. You can take it away.
Thank you, Beth. As Beth said, my name's Joey Simmons. I am the LEPC and CERC Program Manager for Alabama EMA. And Beth, will you go ahead and advance the slide for me, please?
Sorry, sometimes there's a small delay.
You're good. So this is going to be the agenda for my presentation. I'm going to introduce myself, current state of the current active LEPCs in Alabama, and any known upcoming LEPC meetings, which would not be an all-inclusive list as they get added all the time. And you go ahead, Beth. I may look familiar to some of y'all. Like I said, I had been around the state of Alabama for the last 7 years. I spent 7 years with FEMA, 5.5 of those in recovery, doing disaster recovery, and 1.5 years doing preparedness and response. And I left FEMA and came to the state in July of this year. And I'm a Jacksonville State grad as well, if there's any other fellow Gamecocks here. I graduated from their emergency management program in 2018. Beth, you can go ahead. So as of our 2024 survey, we've not sent, we didn't do a survey this year of active circs and LEPCs due to personnel change. We're going to kick one off in 2026. So if you've missed the survey this year and you love filling that out, it's going to come out again next year. We're going to do a little revisions to it. It's going to look a little different, have some different information requests in it. But as of last week, there are 45 counties with active LEPCs. These are LEPCs that are active not only on paper, but also are meeting at least once a year. There are 21 counties with inactive LEPCs, and we're in the process of starting a new LEPC in Escambia County that will kick off January 15th of 2026. So that'll bring our total up to 46 active LEPCs. And we're going to re-engage and grow this number to get all 67 counties active in LEPC and get one set up. Go ahead, Beth. So this is planned for 2026 at the state LEPC program. It is me, so this is my goal for this year, basically. For our active counties, we'll continue to guide their LEPC activities, and I try to attend every meeting I can. There's, like I said, there's 45, so I love being out and about. And if y'all know me, you know you will see me at a meeting if you have one. So please feel free to invite me to whatever you want me to come to. But I'm going to continue attending meetings, providing any advice and guidance, answering questions, looking over ERPs, just doing anything that I can do to assist local counties and just assist where I can. For our inactive counties, we are currently looking through a process of basically re-engaging and meeting with each of these counties with inactive LEPC to remind them of the requirements of EPCRA, of the requirements that you have to have this, and get one reset up, even if that means we have to help write it and everything. So just going to do what we can to re-engage, to get this set up, and not only for ourselves at the state, but also to help kind of ease some possible liabilities if some unfortunate thing were to happen at the county level. And for the counties, which is right now Escambia County, is reorganizing, going to provide as much guidance as possible to kick off the LEPC, get it set up, and get them off the ground and running. We're building that one from scratch, so it's going to be a learning opportunity for not only myself but for Escambia County as well. But we're looking forward to that. And you can go ahead, Beth. And so these are known, like I said, these are known upcoming LEPC meetings. This is not all inclusive. A lot of LEPCs send their invites out roughly a month to 2 months in advance. Some meet biannually, some meet quarterly. So the timing just comes in weird. We actually had the Montgomery County LEPC meeting yesterday. Me, Grady, and Monique, our Division D coordinators there. Is a very good meeting. So we got Baldwin County next week, Jefferson County, Colbert, Mobile, and Limestone County, and actually a couple more just got added. Lee County just sitting there for February as well. So it's going to kick off very quickly after the first of the year. We're kind of getting at the point of the year where there's not a lot of meetings going on. But if you are in any of these counties, please attend. Attendance is crucial to get the LEPCs going and to get engagement. And it also helps if we're attending as county governments and everything, it helps to kind of legitimize it for the industries so that they can say, hey, this is worth our time from taking off from our plants and everything to come to these meetings. And an LEPC is only going to work if we have attendance from all parties. It's not going to work if we're just attending by governments or if we're just attended by industries. We're missing a lot of connections and we're missing a lot of opportunities to build mutual aid and just build the LEPC to what it needs to be. All right, Beth, you can go to the next one. I think that may even be my last one. All right. There's my contact information. Like I said, please don't hesitate to reach out. This one's kind of short. This is my first CERTA meeting. I'll have a lot more for you at the next one. Whether that's exciting to you or not, we're going to have a lot more at the next one. But please don't hesitate to reach out. If you want me to come out and meet with you, I love being out. Please just call me. And also, John, thank you also. I am the one that wrote John the block into giving his presentation. So I want to thank John in advance for it. And I want to thank Debbie Link as well for helping for her presentation as well. And I will turn it over if there's not any questions for me.
Hey, Joey, I have one quick question for those that may not be familiar with what an LEPC's function is. Could you describe briefly sort of what makes up the LEPC and what their sort of goals are in terms of what they should be doing or that sort of thing?
So on your LEPC, the most basic goal is preparedness for chemical emergencies, but most counties actually use it as an all hazards planning event, all hazards planning organization, to where we have industry, so we have manufacturers, chemical manufacturers, auto manufacturers, all of your industry sector comes to meet with the local governments, fire chiefs, fire departments, hazmat teams. So it's a all-inclusive planning organization that is industry-based. And in a lot of them, it's industry-led, but we have 67 unique counties. Each county has a very unique hazard and a very unique amount of tier 2 facilities. Jefferson County has over 400, Wilcox County has 7. So each one varies by their needs and everything, but the just basic goal is preparedness for chemical emergencies. And also, I hate to say it this way, it's a requirement. It's a law requirement that has to be met, that will, we can make it better. Just because it's required doesn't mean that we have to just do the bare minimum. But the goal for the LEPCs, most of them are just to protect the citizens, do the best you can for the citizens, and just, make a better life for all Alabamians and everybody in the state.
Excellent, Joey. Thank you for that. Is there any other questions in the audience for Joey? And you don't have to raise your hand or anything. You can just unmute and ask, by the way. All right. Hearing none, we will transition to Debbie Link with AEMA. She's going to be discussing the Hazardous Materials Emergency Preparedness Grant update.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you perfectly.
Okay, thank you. In 2024, the amount of the HMEP funding that was awarded to Alabama was $430,000 and $430,528. In 2025, we are supposed to be awarded $457,859. And that application was submitted to the federal level on Monday. Haven't heard back from them yet, but that is supposed to be our award amount. And so there's a little bit of an increase, which is good. Majority of this will go to the fire college, and for contracts, which are sub-awards, will be fire college and local EMAs, LEPCs. That amount is $407,418 for the sub-awards. There's an amount for travel for 2 people to attend the NASPO conference, and the rest is a small amount of management and administration costs that include personnel costs, fringes, and a small amount for utilities, share of utilities for AEMA. And then there's a 20% match for this funding. When we receive the funding, we will be able to open the application period for the local level. And again, it's the local EMAs with active LEPCs who can apply for this funding. The types of allowable projects are commodity flow studies, plan updates, and exercises. All have to have a hazmat transportation tie-in to be allowable, regardless of what type of project it is. Let's see. I think that's everything that I have for an update on that funding.
Hey, Debbie, can you explain a little bit about if, like, say somebody wants to apply for HMEP funds for a training they want to have, how far in advance do they need to apply for it? Like, is it based off of, like, are the funds allocated for that year and then people can apply for a chunk for that year? Or do you have to, like, do it a year, like, in advance or something? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, the way we've been doing the application process is opening it once we have the funding from the federal level. And then we open the application period for, I think it's 2 to 3 months. Usually the sub-awards period, the application period's opened, and then and then it's closed, and then the applications are approved or not approved, depending on the projects, the allowability, how much money we have to award for sub-awards. And then the next fiscal year is when the project starts. So we try to get the approvals completed as quick as we can to let the counties know. And then that from that point, they have time to plan for getting started on their project, because a lot of things have to be put in place in order to kick it off usually. And then the other thing I was going to mention, which kind of relates to your question, is the fire college is the the agency that teaches, most of the hazmat training for first responders for the entire state of Alabama. And that's an arrangement that was set up, many years ago. I don't know exactly when that started, but I think, most people know that is what is in place, and that has been in place for a while. So when we open the application period for to me, the small amount of funding that's available for local EMAs that have active LEPCs, they can apply for training, and then they'll have time to, get everything put in place to actually conduct the training. Like it'll be in the next fiscal year.
I have another question about, you mentioned the funding could be used to send 2 representatives to the NASTPO, which is the National Association of Sarah Title III Program Officials. Are those 2 slots limited to anyone that's like a responder in the state that might need to attend NASTPO? Or is that like just from either ADEM or AEMA to go to NASTPO? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's typically, it's in the budget every year for that attendance to the conference. And that is typically going to be AEMA staff, because they manage the HMEP program.
Okay, that makes
So,
sense.
I'm sorry, it can be ADEM and AEMA, but typically that's who's attended in the past.
Okay. Are there any other questions, anyone, for Debbie? All right, hearing none, we're going to move on to our new business. First up, we're going to have John DeVlock with the National Weather Service in Birmingham. Afterwards, we will do the agency roundtable, which we are going to do just slightly different for this meeting. And then after that, we'll have our closing comments and the meeting will end. So John, you're up. If you'll just tell me next when you want me to advance, then I will advance your slides for you.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm out on the road, kind of double booked myself today for an in-person and a virtual. So we'll just go with it and make the best of it as we can. Go ahead. Next slide. All right. So who is the National Weather Service? You see weather forecasts all over the place, and regardless of where you're seeing the weather forecast from, whichever media outlet it is, ultimately that data comes from the National Weather Service. There are a few independent sources of weather information out there that are creating their own little in-house models, but probably on the order of 90% of what is out there, the data originally comes from the National Weather Service and the forecasts and the models that we put out. Go ahead. So our mission is to provide weather, water, and climate data, forecast, weather alerts, decision support services. That's probably the foot stomper there. And research and community outreach. We operate 24/7, 365. Some of that is changing in the agency across the country, pulling back to maybe some single coverage midnight shifts, or even some offices potentially talking about going to no midnight shift and kind of backing up, going to a backup office. I think Congress has spoken pretty heavily about that and says no, they don't want that. So we'll see where that winds up. But our bread and butter is really providing support to our core partners, our emergency managers, our media partners, and working along with everyone in the interest of public safety. Next slide. Hopefully you all realize we've got about 122 offices across the country. That includes Alaska, Hawaii, Puerto Rico, and some of the Pacific Islands as well. Especially being with environmental concerns, hydrology, water is a concern. We have river forecast centers as well that serve us. And right now we have 5 regions, actually 6 regions, 4 in the CONUS and 2 overseas. That's going to be changing potentially in the next few months. We've got a pending reorganization where we'll be trimmed down to 2 CONUS mission control centers, as they're going to be called, and then there'll be 1 for Alaska and the Pacific. Next slide. Of course, in Alabama, we've got 4 offices that serve the state: Huntsville, Birmingham, Mobile, and Tallahassee. The Birmingham office, we're referred to as the state liaison office. So part of our mission is to provide support directly to Alabama Emergency Management and all other state agencies as well, and that includes ADEM. So if you're a part of ADEM and you have any questions about policy or what can be provided to you, come to the National Weather Service office in Birmingham. And then if you happen to be located in one of the other areas, we'll work with those offices to get you any particular support for those locations as well. Next slide. So our weather forecasts are used by everyone. Weather touches everyone every day, whether you know it or not, everywhere from emergency managers, public safety, agriculture's aviation. We provide aviation forecasts. We provide forecast support to Alabama Forestry and National Forest Service, the general public, energy sector, marine interests. Weather impacts retail stores. What shows up in your local Home Depot a lot has to do with what is in the forecast. If we were to forecast a couple inches of snow, I guarantee you they'd ship some snow shovels down to those big box stores as well. We support sports and recreation. We deploy to the Alabama and Auburn games, Talladega race weekends as well, and of course schools and universities. So we're broad reaching, and we try to support everyone to the best of their ability. Schools, interestingly enough, the schools and universities make those decisions on closure and cancellations. There's more to just deciding what's going to happen at the school. A lot of times schools have their classes going out on field trips, athletic teams on the road. So it's more than just a simple, does the school stay open? There's other things to consider there as well. Next slide. Of course, we have some great tools to provide that support. We've got our satellite network. We've got the Doppler radar network right now, weather stations, and we all use computer models, and a lot of you are probably familiar with those resources. If you ever find yourself in need of a resource or get a connection to that, let us know, and we can try to get you connected to that. Next slide. And this briefing kind of oriented towards LEPC and talking about, the threats from thunderstorms. The number 1 cause of damage in the state of Alabama, and actually in the country, is the severe thunderstorm. Everybody focuses on the tornadoes, but those are such rare occurrences. Thunderstorms happen much more frequently and cover a lot more territory and a lot more damage, a much wider swath as well. So they carry with them lightning, tornadoes, hail, strong winds, and flooding. Combine that with some sort of chemical, atmospheric, issue with a hazardous material, and we have a little extra headache on our hands. Next slide. This is a fun slide. This is a map that shows all the tornado tracks in Alabama from roughly late November of 2010. Alabama, we are one of the, we have the most tornado fatalities. We're highest in tornado fatalities. People tend to think of Tornado Alley as, the Midwest, but I'm starting to see more acknowledgement of the number of tornadoes that we have here in the Southeast. I can tell you this, between Alabama and Mississippi, we have the majority of the strong to violent tornadoes, the EF4s to EF5s, especially the long track ones. We tend to have the worst of the worst tornadoes in our area. Next slide. And here's just a zoom in of a talk I was giving at Calhoun County and showing them the tornadoes that affected their area. We do have the historical tornado information that goes back to 1950. And actually, that's when the National Weather Service actively started collecting tornado information. You go back prior to 1950, and those of you that are meteorologists, you might know that there's the Tom Grisoulis Bible of tornadoes that goes back as all of recorded history in the United States. It's quite an impressive work. And we have extracted that information and have that available on our website in our tornado database as well. Go ahead, next slide. We really encourage people to be weather heroes. That includes being ready, then monitoring the conditions, and then acting. You'll see a lot of our publicity is we talk about sharing the information. Social science has shown that people, they needed a reason sometimes to take those safe acts and go to the safe place. And that could be a message from a friend or a loved one saying, hey, I heard there's bad weather in the area. Please be aware. So be a hero. Tell all your friends and loved ones that, hey, there's bad weather coming. If you follow my Facebook page along, you'll see me a lot of times. I'll post things out there. And a lot of people take their clue off of that to watch information. And the folks around you will do the same, I'm sure. Next slide. Of course, we try to tell everybody that to have more than one source of weather information when it comes to watches and warnings. Technology is great. Unfortunately, technology is also fragile. So I've got probably 4 apps on my phone. I've got a weather radio at home. And of course, there's always the TV. Something that people will overlook is that radio that's in the car as a source. You know, the power goes out, they don't have TV. What do I do? You can always go out to the car and crank up the radio in the car if all else fails. Next slide. There we go. No, I guess we had animation loading. That was the hold up there. NOAA Weather Radio. We have 10 transmitters that are located in central Alabama. We control those all from our office at the Shelby County Airport. And it used to be the quickest way to get weather information. It's still fast and reliable, but now when I hit send on a warning, I'm getting it, a couple seconds before the weather radio gets triggered and set off. I'm getting it on my personal device. And of course, that depends on your apps. Just for what it's worth, I have noticed FEMA has an app and Red Cross have an app. I have noticed a bit of delay of information getting there. Every local TV station, it seems, has an app. A lot of the counties have notification systems. We encourage everybody to sign up to those when they can and use that as a layered approach to being safe from severe weather. Next slide. Of course, we are available on social media right now. We're limited to X and Facebook. I know the National Weather Service account is on Instagram. There was a good post there recently about atmospheric rivers. If you have Instagram, look up National Weather Service Birmingham there. We do monitor it very closely. When we are in a severe weather event, of course, we encourage everybody to submit reports directly to us, but we will mine social media as to look for reports there as well. So we monitor Twitter accounts and X accounts, well, X and Facebook accounts from all our media partners. And of course, our page, people will post stuff there. Next slide. And our website, weather.gov. Obviously, this slide was from the summer, 94 degrees. If it was 94 degrees, I think we'd all be happy right now. But weather.gov, go ahead and you click on Central Alabama. Go to the next slide. and you get our webpage there. And if you click over Northern Alabama, you get Huntsville, or you can get Mobile or Tallahassee. We try to have a graphic up there. The big hitting, what's the headline story is going to be our top slide, our number one slide that's available to you there. Of course, scroll down. I think the next slide has the bottom part. That top map of Alabama, of central Alabama, that's a point and click forecast. If you tap on that, you'll get a forecast for your location. Of course, we have the radar, a graphical hazardous weather outlook. We don't issue the hazardous weather outlook anymore. That was not necessarily a popular decision, but it was seemed like it was a lot of effort with a little bit of bang, not much bang for the buck. So we're sticking with the graphical hazardous weather outlook. And of course, we do have an updated weather table that's on the bottom versus the version that's there. I think it's a much more complete list of stations throughout central Alabama. Next slide. Here's that graphical hazardous weather outlook. At the point of this presentation back in September, there wasn't a whole lot going on, but you'll see those chiclets on the right side of the page will have a color that's coincident with the level of hazard for that specific element. And you can scroll through there and go click on whichever individual chiclet that you want to see what the hazards are as you're out there doing your work for the day and trying to figure out what's going on. Next slide. And then scrolling down a little bit further on the page, there's that tornado database on the bottom right there that I was talking about. Different locations, our Skywarn training schedule is listed. We have not set that up yet for the spring. Other locations to climate, storm reports, safety tips, all sorts of information there. Next slide. One of the features that we have is the IDSS forecast points. That's www.weather.gov/forecast points. This is a really neat little feature. If you haven't seen it yet, you can get a very specific forecast for a location in tabular format. Go ahead and click that next slide. I think we've got the example there. Yep, that's good there. We've got at that point, we've got a daily forecast, highs, lows, chance of precip, dew point, everything that's there. And I want to say the next slide, maybe we show an hourly. Yep, there we go with an hourly presentation. So if you, for whatever reason, can't get a hold of us, or if you need a quick, you're out at a spill site or responding to something and you need a quick forecast, that's a real go-to kind of a link there. Forecast points, www.weather.gov/forecast points. You can get a real good detailed forecast for any location in the country there by going to that link. Next slide. All of you being employees of ADEM, you should have access to what's called INWS. You can receive alerts for particular areas of interest. You can change your areas of interest. If you go out and you need to, you're at a spill location, you need to set up a location, you can draw a little box, and if we issue a warning, you'll get an alert on that. You can get it by email or by text. Now, the only caveat to that is that there's going to be changes coming to INWS here in the next year. You're going to have to be, and you all will be qualified to be listed in our partner database, but it's going to be controlled from access to something that's equivalent to INWS is going to be managed by the local office, which to me, that's a good thing. I don't always like having to go to region or headquarters to ask them to manage my customers' access to data. Go ahead, next slide. And then NWS chat is now hosted on Slack. And again, you all, as core partners, you are eligible to enroll in NWS chat. I think I can't remember the URL off the top of my head. It might be on the next slide or not. But if you want to join that, just look up NWS chat on Google. I'm sure it will take you to the registration page. That's the opportunity where you can talk to us by chat directly, feedback, two-way communications. You can also, once you get approval to join from, if you're in whichever office you're at, whether you're Birmingham, Huntsville, Mobile, or Tallahassee, you can join any other channel of any other Weather Service office in the country as well. So that's a really good option for you there. It's a great way to stay in the loop. We at our office, we have a main chat channel which is meant for dialogue between us and our partners, and we also have a data feed channel. So our TV partners, when they're on air, if we have a lot of warnings and weather information coming up, they're missing what we were talking. So we split out the dialogue versus the data flow. But you can have both those channels. You can set up alerts, you can get alarms, you can set up keywords. There's all sorts of advantages to that. It's a real modern chat tool. A lot of the EM community, I know North Alabama Mutual Aid, they've got a Slack set up there as well, and there's all sorts of other Slack channels around as well. You can see on my display on that top left corner there, I am in what's called workspace, 4 different workspaces. So I can go between James Spann's Alabama Weather Network, the National Weather Service, a group that I started a while back, which is Friends of National Weather Service, and then there's an amateur, our Skywarn spotter chat as well. Next slide. And our goal at the Weather Service is to avoid a visit to the Institute for Advanced Hindsight, research into what should have been. Our goal is to provide the most accurate and timely products and services to all our customers and partners at all times. And I think that's probably my last slide. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Hey, John, I have a question. As the facility representative for EPCRA, I have a particular interest in using the E-plan data, which maps all of those facilities that have these hazardous substances. We have the ability to create a KML file that shows all the location data for those sites. And I'm, sometimes during high weather events, like with the potential for flooding in particular, sometimes we get contacted from like regional hazmat folks or during hurricane response, for example, people come in from other states to do response when the hurricane is expected to be, catastrophic and whatnot. And I'm wondering, do you know if the Weather Service has a sort of either a map data layer that we could basically merge together? Because it would be really awesome if we could have a way to sort of guesstimate which of these facilities might be in the range of either a flood or a hurricane in a way that would be a significant chemical release at that location should that weather drastically impact that location. So I know there's a lot of tools you've shared today, and I just didn't know if there was a map layer that could be shared during an active event like that where we could merge that data fairly easily, just so we can sort of try to get ahead of a chemical release due to weather events.
I would point you to something called National Weather Service. Let's see how do I get there. Viewer, NWS Viewer, VIEWER. That is a GIS-based way that we look at weather. Now, I don't know if that's exportable or if you can merge that. Obviously, if something is in a GIS format someplace, theoretically it should work. Contact me offline if you can't use anything if you can't get those to merge, and I can probably find a way for you to be able to do what you're trying to do.
Well, thank you, John. Appreciate it. Does anyone else have any questions for John? We have a hand raised for Steve Gaddy. Go ahead, Steve.
Yes, ma'am. I just retired from the Army working GIS for field artillery, and I brought over MARPLOT, MARPLOT, And it allows you to export the KML file from the Tier 2 database into Marplot, and it plots all of your facilities. And then there's an add-in called Aloha, which shows wind speed, wind direction, etc. And that helps you establish your plumes and the direction that your plume goes.
Steve, thank you so much for bringing up Marplot and Aloha. Those are excellent tools to be able to do really detailed plume modeling and mapping. And just for those that aren't aware, Aloha and Marplot are part of the Cameo suite that the EPA puts out for free. And it's the computer aided management of emergency operations software. That's what Cameo stands for. And Marplot and Aloha are a mapping service and a plume modeling program. They're technically separate programs, but when you download all three of them to your computer, and then you can log into ePlan and actually export that KML file I was just talking about and import it into your Cameo and Marplot and Aloha. And then that way you have all your Tier 2 facilities easily exported and imported into Cameo, Marplot, and Aloha, and you can do your planning without having to manually enter all of those data points. So, Steve, thank you for mentioning Aloha and Marplot because they are very excellent programs. Does anybody?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, go ahead.
The reason I brought it up was in the military, we have our own weather service, and we were able to import the weather into it. And I've been playing with it, trying to see if I could find a layer that would do that. And if I do, I'll let the group know.
That would be awesome. Thank you, Steve. Are there any other questions for John or any of the speakers thus far? Okay, hearing none, we will begin the agency roundtable. What I'm going to do is pull the list of agencies that we currently have present from our check-in, which, by the way, if you still haven't done that, please go ahead and do that. This will be your last chance to do that, to put your name and agency in the chat if you haven't already done so. So I'm going to, when I call on your agency, please unmute, state your name and the agency that you represent. Sometimes we only have acronyms, and not everyone will be familiar with what your acronym stands for. So the first thing I want you to do is to state your name and the agency you represent. And then the second thing is to briefly describe the role that your agency might play during a hazardous chemical event or other type of disaster. So if what you do has nothing to do with any chemicals at all whatsoever, then just discuss sort of how your agency responds during interagency type events. Okay. And then the third thing I would like you to do is to share any relevant updates from your agency. It doesn't have to just be limited to chemical response. It can be literally anything that is an important update for your agency. And also any training information that your agency either promotes or is a part of or knows about that you think would be helpful for anybody in this specific demographic. So I'm going to start with the first agency on the list. I am going to skip ADEM and AEMA since we've all sort of discussed our roles this time. And I will say, Michael Morgan, if you're still on the chat, what agency are you actually with? I just got your name.
Yeah, I'm with the Alabama Emergency Management Agency.
Okay.
I'm
Awesome.
the new infrastructure branch director.
Oh,
You may
welcome.
recall Pam Cook that used to be in this position.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Michael. Let's see. ADHR, Melody Messick with ADHR. Are you still on the call?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. So I'm Melody Messick with the Department of Human Resources. I'm on the call in place of Paul Smelly, who would normally be on this call. Our role when there are disasters is to coordinate the sheltering that might be needed, particularly during weather events. And we coordinate that with EMA and Red Cross and Salvation Army, all the different agencies that are part of the Human Services branch for EMA, whether that's that there are just temporary shelters needed that Red Cross is opening up and we're helping them manage, or if there's a bigger event where something might be needed more long-term.
Awesome. And then do you have any relevant updates for your agency or training info you'd like to share?
I do not at this time.
Okay, thank you so much. Next, we have April Sells with the Porch Creek Indians. Are you still on the call?
I am. Good afternoon. How's everybody? April Sells, Porch Bandit Creek Indians. What our role would be in a hazardous situation is we would probably do the initial assessment. If it's beyond our control, then we have a agreement with a third party who will come in and do the remediation or whatever needs to be done. I'm glad that the state is looking at lithium ion battery training. Last year we could not find, beginning of the year, we could not find any. So we actually found a company out of Boston, and they came down and did training for us in February for an 8-hour class, and did hands-on training that afternoon because we were trying our best to get training that was just not seemed to be at our fingertips. So we went and found somebody who could come in and do the class for us.
Awesome. April, I have a question for you. If a facility has a release that is near the Porch Creek Band of Indians and they need to notify someone about the potential impact, is there a specific person they can contact for that?
Yes, we do have a 24-hour dispatch department. So that is the best contact is to contact our dispatch center, and then they will notify the relevant people that needs to be involved.
Awesome.
And you want the number?
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah. Okay. The emergency number is 251-368-8787.
Got it. Thank you so much. And then do you have any updates or training that you'd like to share?
None at this time.
Okay. Thank you. Next, we have Lillian Pittman with ALM. Are you still on the call, Lillian? Okay, we'll move on to the next one. Let's see. We've got Matt Russell with the Alabama Fire College. Are you still on the line, Matt or David?
Hey, Beth. Yes, this is Matt. So I am with the Alabama Fire College. As Debbie alluded to, the Fire College does receive grant funding from the HMEP grant. We have a very robust training program in workplace safety training. They have several trailers. You can either take training here at the Alabama Fire College, or we can come to you guys. And we try to make it as convenient as possible. I know one of the biggest expenses for our constituents is travel and the per diem that you have to pay. So sometimes it's a lot easier for us just to come to you guys. And that is grant funded. We do a 20% match on that. And so we contribute back to that grant. So we teach hazardous materials awareness, operations technician, and incident commander. We do NIMS 100, 200, 700, 800, 300, and 400. We have been allocated some funding in previous years by the state for EV battery and battery storage systems training. So we're about to roll those programs out, and I'll send you guys a link to that. So I'll send that to you, Beth, so you can distribute it to your folks. We do that. Alabama Fire College is the host agency for the Alabama All Hazards Incident Management Team. And we work hand in hand with EMA during large scale disasters for incident management. And we help staff the desk down at the fire desk down at the state EMA to coordinate fire resources. One of the things that we're very excited about, we had a meeting just before this one with a major university and a private sector company. They want to construct a burn test facility on our campus. And that'd be a partnership between, again, public and private sector. That's going to generate revenue, we think, for the state of Alabama, and then also the commercialization, because anybody wants to put a product out in the state of Alabama or in the U.S. has to do destructive testing on those products prior to those going to market. And so we understand there's a big market for that, and so we're actually in the process of having some conversation with ADEM. We're going to establish a meeting in the next few weeks. We hope to have more conversation about that and what the requirements would be through ADEM to make that happen. So, and that's about it for the Fire College. Thank you, Beth.
Awesome. Thank you so much. From the chat, we have Sandy Ebersole. She's with the Geological Survey of Alabama. She says she does not have a microphone. I'm just going to briefly read her comment about GSA. She said that GSA researchers, they research and map geological hazards like sinkholes, earthquakes, and landslides. And our groundwater and ecosystems division study affects the environmental issues in freshwater streams and groundwater, like aquifers. We collaborate with Alabama and county emergency management agencies upon request for information related to hazard mitigation plans and disaster response planning. No updates or training info at this time. Thank you so much, Sandy, for typing that up in the chat for us so we can have your update. Lillian Pittman also posted in chat. She said she's having trouble with her mic and that the league does not have any updates at this time. And so we will now be going over to the Alabama Forestry Commission. Ball C. Butler, are you still on the line?
Yes, I'm here. Hear me?
Hey, yes, we can hear you.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Balcy Butler with the Alabama Forestry Commission. We serve in a lot of capacities during emergency responses. Just to kind of give an example, we have during the 2011 tornadoes, we helped, of course, clear roadways so that emergency vehicles can get in and out of those areas with our chainsaw crews. We also supplied at that time personnel to help service as members of response teams or incident management teams throughout the state. We also at that time also were able to assist with I think it was at some chicken farms. The fastest way to dispose of those the deceased chickens at those farms was to bury them. So we participated in things of that nature. In COVID, we facilitated delivering most, if not, I would not all, but most of the PPE that was distributed during that time during COVID, and that included some of those medicines that had to be transported to various hospitals across the state. We have participated in a lot of things, and we're primarily known for fighting fires, but during emergency response efforts, I mean, for the most part, we probably wouldn't be involved with anything dealing with a chemical release. But after the air is clear, we could. I remember during a tornado, we were actually going to pick up and transport nurses from homes to the airport so that hospitals, so those hospitals wouldn't lose their personnel during those ice storms, be able to continue to service those patients in the hospitals. One of my favorite sayings is, we're like a rubber band. We bend, we don't break. If we can assist, we fill those voids where we can assist, and where we can't, we try to direct them to another agency or somewhere else if we have a recommendation to make. But that's pending any questions. I think that's a pretty much a good overview for what forestry does in this role.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that. Next up, we have Tracy Fletcher with ALDA. Are you still on the call, Tracy?
Yes, this is Tracy with Alabama Department of Transportation. With our agency for emergency response, we respond to anything from weather-related events to terrorism to vehicular accidents. Our roads and highways are what our priorities are. So when those events occur, we respond in order. If it's a natural disaster that's created debris on the highway, we respond to get that removed so that emergency responders can get to locations that are inaccessible. When we have traffic incidences that occur, then we respond to assist emergency responders in handling the traffic that are being impacted by those type of events. So we actively engage with all of our state partners during those types of occurrences. As of training, there's not anything really new training that we're doing. We do hazmat training to our employees that work in the field who could respond to hazardous incidences on the highways. We also have, my mind just went blank, TIMS, Traffic Incident Management Response Training that we do. We actually have quite a few instructors throughout the state that provide those trainings to all of the emergency responders, us, ALEA, or law enforcement, record companies, firefighters, dispatch, ambulances, so that we know when we are responding to an event, how, all of the roles that we all play in that so that we can have better cohesion to be able to get out there, get the scene cleared, and return traffic back to normal so that everybody can be safe returning home. Great. I would definitely be interested in that training on lithium batteries because we can incorporate that into our TIMS training and help push that out to the emergency responders that we interact with. Each year we do what's called contraflow. We work with EMA and Alabama National Guard and ALEA. That is the practice of turning I-65 north if we were to have a hurricane, and the governor issued that order for us to do that. So we do that annually along with the governor's hurricane exercise. And yeah, so that's an update if anyone has any questions.
Thank you so much. Also on the call, we have a few representatives for our local county EMAs and LEPCs. Lee County EMA, we have, let's see, Elmore County. Jason Moran, are you still on the call? I didn't catch which EMA office you were with, but I know who you are because I've talked to you so many times. I just can't remember. If you could post who you're with, Jason, that would be so helpful. We also have Montgomery City County EMA as well. With that, if any of you from those agencies would like to share anything at all relating to your LEPC, if you have any sort of information that you'd like to share, like, about your progress with your LEPC or maybe needs that you might have, or anything such as that, you can open the mic and do that at this time.
I'll go. Lee County EMA, Nicholas Glover. Basically, I took over about 2 years ago. Since then, we've been running quarterly LEPC meetings. So we hit every quarter. Our next one's going to be the 26th of February. We also are part of the hazmat county, or we're part of the county hazmat team. So we partner up with the sheriff's office. We'll go to like narcotic calls and stuff like that. We have different capabilities. Like we have a MX 908, which we like test different things on the hazmat side. Like I said, I run the LEPC, so we also conduct site visits. We have a total of 75 reporting agencies, tier 2 reporters within our county. Some of the places that I would check would be Auburn, like their chemical labs and stuff like that, or like just random factories. We do have 2 annual decon exercises that we partner with Southern Union. It's basically decon training. We partner with like the EMTs to try to train first responders before they actually become like hardcore first responders. And then our next one is going to be partnering with East Central Healthcare Coalition, and they operate a decon with us every year. And it'll be at my location, the EMA building in Lee County, on the 19th of March. And then we also try to offer training to all the companies within our area to train them up. We partner with TEACS, and we're bringing multiple different like management courses, like disaster management for public service and public works, recon public assistance programs, wastewater, utilities, whatever. Basically, we're trying to like bring training towards LEPC to get to our companies. If you're interested in any training, we're bringing a lot to Lee County this year.
Awesome. Thank you so much for jumping in and sharing that. If anybody else with any of the LEPCs want to share anything, you may do so now. Also, Jason, thank you for posting in chat. It was Tallapoosa that he was with. Okay. With that, will conclude our agency roundtable. And we can enter closing comments. I just want to thank everyone who came today, and also that you jumped in and participated in the agency roundtable. It was so great hearing just exactly what everyone does, and we don't get to hear that very often. So I just really appreciate y'all taking the time to inform us about your agency. And thank you also for John for being our guest speaker today. With your overbooking and everything, I'm so glad you were able to make it. And if anybody has any EPCRA related training needs regarding EPCRA data or E-Plan or anything such as that, please know that my contact I'm always open to you for that. Grady and Joey, if you would like to add any closing comments, I would welcome that now.
Nothing other to add. I'm sorry, Joe. Nothing other to add from my end. Other to say thank everyone for attending. We really appreciate it. And if I don't see you between now and then, I hope each of you have a blessed and Merry Christmas.
Beth, I have nothing to add either. Thank y'all for attending. And that's it for me, Beth.
Okay, thank you so much. Everyone, this meeting was recorded. I'm sorry I didn't mention that. The pop-up should have notified you of that. This video will be posted on ADEM's YouTube channel. Feel free to share that link with any of your counterparts at your LEPC who might benefit from any of this information. And if anyone needs anything, y'all just let us know. Thank you again. We will have another meeting. We will shoot for a spring meeting. We try to do that around March or April, and then we do our winter one between October and November. So we'll look forward to that next year, and we'll see y'all later. Thank you so much for coming. Y'all have a good day.